Good morning to you. It is Friday, March 15th, and it's officially time to wake up on the first Friday of free agency. We're nearly through a week. Damon, Bruce, Larry Krueger, it's great to have you. Larry, a very interesting week for the 49ers. We're going to go over any and all details in the next about 45 minutes to an hour. We know us well enough to know that we're not going to keep today to 45 minutes. It's just how you and I go. News right off the bat that John Feliciano is back on a one-year deal. So the right guard hybrid of Feliciano and Burford remains in the room. What do you think of Feliciano coming back? It's obviously something the team wanted.
Yeah, I mean, they like him. I know there's a lot of people going, well, why are you re-signing Feliciano when you have Spencer Burford on a rookie contract that has 2 more years left? And that is that Feliciano is maybe a little bit more dependable. And the Niners like what they got in the 1 year that they had him. And of course, the controversy came in the Super Bowl when Burford made a mistake. The rank and file NFL fan looked at the film and said, "It's McKivitz," and people were just doing a rain dance on McKivitz's head. And Feliciano defended McKivitz and suggested Burford was at fault on the pivotal play. He later apologized and John Lynch said that he would speak with Laken Tomlinson also about a potential reunion. So that kind of clouded the picture a little bit. And Tomlinson is out there still. He remains a free agent, but the Niners extend McKivitz, and they've got at least 5 O linemen. If the game was today, they could play.
So the game is not today. We are reporting that we are still very, very far away from week 1 of the NFL season, but to make the best possible season around the corner, there's still plenty of business to do. When you need plenty of business to do, you need a little bit of money to do it with. And we also have the news right off the bat this morning here for everyone on Wake Up that George Kittle and Javon Hargrave have restructured, according to Dave Lombardi and Over the Cap, and all precincts reporting the 49ers converted over $7 million in base salary to bonuses with prorated cap hits over the next 5 years for Hargrave. I don't really have the details on Kittle's rework deal, but it's being reported that that's going to create about $10 million in space, which when you looked at the cap space the 49ers have, had been diminishing. So Kittle just did him a solid right there, Larry.
Well, and these were all expected. Even though Hargrave did not particularly play great football in that first year with the Niners, when they signed him to that massive deal, this was part of the master plan, which was to have him renegotiate this year, create additional cap room. And for Kittle, it says that he's probably going to be a long-time guy with the Niners, right? I mean, there's people that are like, maybe they'll replace Kittle. Well, if you're restructuring a guy, you typically – those are your foundation pieces. Those are the guys that are going to be around for a while, typically. Not always, but typically. Fred Warner also is involved in a restructure. So Warner, Kittle, Hargrave making a big grip of cash, and now they restructure and now allow the 49ers to have the free agency room that they need to pursue whoever they want to pursue. There's talk they want Devondre Campbell. There was talk last night they wanted Cameron Curl before he went back to the Rams. To me, this is all kind of tied to that other story, which is out on Niners Nation right now, which is that Talanoa Hufanga is not guaranteed a starting spot this year. Mike Silver has written it. I think many of us have known it for quite a while. I mean, he's coming off an ACL. He was an all-pro player in 2022. And a lot of people just assume he's going to get that starting spot. But the Niners kick tires on Justin Simmons, on Cameron Curl, on Julian Blackmon. Hufanga's coming off the torn ACL, and he has a history of injuries dating back to his days at USC. So I think the 49ers would be very wise to get themselves fortified at free safety because you just don't know. You just don't know.
And Larry,
strong safety for that.
I mean, look at who the general manager is. If there is one position where, the Niners general manager has an awful lot of working knowledge, it's the position of safety. John Lynch, a Hall of Fame safety, obviously. So I think I'll take his instincts there and his hunches there and apply, more credence to it than maybe at any other position. Like, who knows more about safety play than John Lynch in the building? He's a Hall of Fame safety. It is a little surprising, though, to hear that they doubt. I don't know. Should we interpret this as doubt of Talanoa Hufanga? Or is that a little bit too dramatic? It's probably a little bit too
It's not a doubt of him. It's a doubt of his body to be able to stay healthy. And so they've worked out a number of safeties. Right now they've got Brown coming off of a rookie year. They got George Odom. So they need depth. I mean, they absolutely have to have depth at that position. And they don't have depth there. They've got Taylor Hawkins, I guess, if you want to throw that out, Eric Harris. But those guys are more, I don't want to just in any way put them down, but they're not necessarily starter caliber talents, at least not in my mind. Maybe they are, but I don't think so. So you got Hufanga and you got Brown, and Hufanga's coming off an ACL, and didn't he suffer the ACL like halfway through the year or a little bit late in the year? Yeah. So you have the Niners out there looking at all potential safeties. Now, the Cameron Curl idea to me was really exciting, but he went to the Rams last night. The guy that I think makes a lot of sense for them is Mike Edwards, who was in Kansas City, I believe, and he's from the University of Kentucky. And the reason for it is they've been going with these productive interceptor types. For years, the Niners went with like big, fast, physical. Can you run? Can you hit? Can you play like a linebacker? Now they value ball skills and interception production, stuff like that. Tayshaun Gibson's still out there. Marcus May, Blackman, as I mentioned before, Julian Blackman. But I think Mike Edwards is a name to kind of circle just from the standpoint of if he's still out there. Edwards is a productive interceptor, and he has been going all the way back to University of Kentucky days. So, but they also interviewed a bunch of safeties in the upcoming draft, so maybe they'll wait till the draft.
So, lots of questions for us to get into today. First of all, let's start with the big broad. We're about a week in. How do you think the 49ers are doing? I think that they've actually played free agency. The only thing you could accuse them of is they've focused maybe too much on just one side of the ball. The counterpoint to that could be, well, that's where their focus needs to be to start this entire process. And they are focused on the defensive side of the ball. What do you think has been the biggest move the 49ers have made so far?
Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd is the best edge rusher they've had opposite Bosa since they've been there. So,
since they took a hope and a holler on what, D Ford maybe?
No, I think he's better than D Ford. D Ford had chronic injury problems. Leonard Floyd is I think a little bit better than D Ford. So, I mean, I like Leonard Floyd. And I think Floyd is an impact guy. I think he's better than Chase Young. I think he's better than D Ford. I think he's better than Randy Gregory. I think he's the best guy they've had opposite Bosa. So I like him quite a bit. I like both those tackles too, by the way. I mean, Jordan Elliott is very underrated. He hasn't burst onto the stage yet, but he's kind of a late bloomer. And then Malik Collins is just enormously strong. And if you watched him at Nebraska, you could see that. And then he's a much better player right now than he was coming out of college. Out of college, he was just a bull, just a big, strong guy
powerful.
Powerful, but no idea of really how to play. Now he's been in the league. Now he's got technique. Now he's got, hands tied to feet and pass rush moves and counters and that kind of thing. So now he's a much better pass rusher than he was coming out of Nebraska. So I like it. I mean, you get rid of Armstead. Armstead had chronic plantar fasciitis. He had a meniscus that was not going to get any better. He was, promising to be hurt, I would say 5 to 6 games a year. And now you split up his money. You've got greater depth. You've got greater health. I think that was a net positive. I really do.
I like the Jordan Elliott signing more now that Malik Collins is in the building. And Larry, look out. I did the journalism this week. You and I are small
In what
J
way?
journalists. I did the journalism. John McClain, who has been covering he's been covering football in Houston since before Warren Moon was the Oilers quarterback. He has been there basically since Houston got an NFL team. John McClain, a Hall of Fame writer, guy's fantastic. He and I have both been Twitter friends for a long time. I used to have him on the show. He's retired. And since he's retired, his coverage of the Houston Texans has even gotten better. Like, the guy just can't stop with the football. So I reached out to John McClain just because here's the thing. Like so many 49ers.
What's his nickname? Is he like the lieutenant or the ranger
or the shooter or something? I don't know.
He's got something.
I don't know. But he should have one. He looks like Wilford Brimley almost. He looks like a walrus. The guy's fantastic. Like that's a guy who knows football. Anyway, like everyone else, are we sitting around watching much Houston Texans football? The answer to that is no. And when we watch the Houston Texans this year, you probably turned on like CJ Stroud highlights more than you were saying, like, let me watch Malik Collins. But I went, just like everybody else, started watching Malik Collins. And my first question was, what's wrong? Because this guy's way too good of a player to be flipped for a 7th round pick. There must be something behind the scenes that the Houston Texans don't like. Lazy in the weight room, overweight, nutrition. Not that I could even see any of that, but there must be a problem with his attitude, his teammates, his coaches. There's got to be a flaw in this Malik Collins experience because this is way too good of a player to be flipped for a 7th rounder. So I reached out to John McClain. I said, John, my red flag has gone off here. I got to ask you, what is wrong with Malik Collins where he only got a 7th rounder? And John McClain wrote me back his thumbnail profile of Malik Collins. Damon is durable. He's terrific with the run. He's coming off a career high with 5 sacks. His teammates love him. His coaches love him. He works his ass off. We had no idea he was going to be traded. Both this team's starting defensive tackles are now out the door. D'Amico must have another player in mind. But we are stunned, collectively stunned, that the return for Malik Collins was a 7th rounder. So John McClain is telling us the 49ers got themselves a hell of a player here. And when you put on the highlights, you're going to see the same thing. And like you said, Larry out of Nebraska, he was just a strong kid, fire plug power. He has added technique. He's got a spin move that is a nasty spin move for a big man in the middle. And I think the 49ers got themselves a hell of a player for a ridiculous value now, according to John McClain, with Malik Collins showing up in San Francisco for just a 7th rounder. He started 112 out of 119 games in his career. This guy is a really good player. And like you said, Jordan Elliott not being cast as your now only defensive tackle, he looks better by the addition of Malik Collins. And like you said, Leonard Floyd, and we're going to find out more about who Yetur Gross-Matos is as we watch him play. We still don't really know, but I think the 49ers have had I don't think it's a sexy word, but it might fit, a prudent, smart, patient first week of free agency. Don't you think?
Well, I mean, they're not household names, so it lends itself to, oh my God, what the heck's going on?
Right, but we knew they weren't going to be in the household name business.
Well, I mean, you never know exactly who they're going out for, or who they're trying to get. But I like all their guys. I mean, I really do. Collins is just when I saw him at Nebraska, I thought, oh my God, this is one of the strongest defensive tackles I've seen come out in the draft in years. I mean, just really, really noticeable strength. Well, now he's emerged as a pass rusher. So the other thing I love about, Malik Collins is the wrestling background. I believe this guy had a great wrestling background. And, that's always a great, anytime you see a wrestling background, that's a great, leverage is a big part of wrestling. Leverage is a big part of playing in the interior in the NFL on the line of scrimmage. I really like the way he's progressed. I mean, he's a far better, more complete, well-rounded player today than he was when he came out of Nebraska. So you got Collins inside, you got Hargrave. Jordan Elliott is really nice. I mean, I've been following Jordan Elliott since he was at the University of Texas. Then he transferred to Missouri, and I thought he was a steal in the draft. I thought, he was a guy that was going to go higher than he did. And then he gets involved in some bad defenses in Cleveland. Let's be honest. They had some really bad D. And it was a team thing. But that's why people pointed him, be like, oh, he's not a good run defender. No, Cleveland, he's actually a pretty active 310-pound guy who does play the run pretty well. He played on some really, really bad run defenses in Cleveland. Now, this year they had the wide 9. They stopped the run much better. I think he was 6th. You got to go look it up, but I think he was 6th or 7th in the league this year as far as defensive tackles against the run. So, I mean, that's damn good. I'll take 6th or 7th as far as defensive tackles against the run. That's what that's what Elliott did this year. So the day that they signed him a couple days ago, I put it out on Twitter. The great John Lund sent it to me. Yeah, here it is right here. So defensive tackle run stop win rate rankings for this last year. Number 1 in the NFL, defensive tackle wise, Derek Brown, Carolina Panthers, 160 wins. Dalvin Tomlinson of Cleveland, who was awesome against the Niners in that game in Cleveland earlier this year. He's number 2. Grover Stewart from Indianapolis, number 3. Harrison Phillips from Minnesota, number 4. Ed Oliver from Buffalo, number 5. Jordan Elliott from the Cleveland Browns, number 6. So as far as defensive tackle run stop win rate rankings, he was the 6th best in the NFL with a win rate at 45, or he had a double team rate of 45%, and he had wins on 72 wins on 181 plays.
Well, and again, pro football focus grades make my eyes roll. Win rates is a whole different thing. Win rates, straight up pass blocking, run blocking, that's not to be interpreted through a pro football focus grade. That's a straight up, it's a yes or no. So that's all good news. I like hearing that, and I think that 49ers fans should like hearing that too. Welcome to Wake Up, Damon, Bruce, Larry Krueger. Please hit like and subscribe. It's great to have you here this morning. Hopefully you're one-stop shopping now 3 days a week in the morning, 8:30 a.m. We get going West Coast time, and we always open with 49ers, and then we work into other things. But during free agency, obviously that totally takes over. So do you believe, Larry, a big headline grabbing, big, like you were saying earlier, household name is going to be attached to the 49ers either this weekend or early next week? I feel like the Bosa ship, the Khalil Mack ship have both left town. That's not going to be happening. It doesn't look like it anymore. And I just don't see the game of musical chairs that brings them a big name at this point in time. Certainly no big name shows up with any hope of Brandon Ayuk remaining, just looking at the way this cap is getting squozen.
Maybe at corner, if they decide they absolutely have to have a corner. I mean,
you think a Surtain trade,
something like that, where they target a number 1 corner. That's probably the only thing. Maybe there'll be a veteran backup quarterback that they could go after. That could be, more of a name. I mean, here's the question. Do you want to go into next year with Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen, and a rookie? Or do you want to go into next year with Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen, and a veteran? And I don't know what they'd rather go into next year with. So on one hand, Brock Purdy's going to be healthy, is probably going to be healthy. But what you're really trying to guard against is, what if there's a 5-week injury? What if he, there's a lot of injuries in the NFL. What if you suffer a 5 or 6 week injury? Well, if you're going to Brandon Allen, that might be game over. And I like Brandon Allen, but that might be season over. You got to make sure that a 5-week Brock Purdy injury does not end your season, especially if he's coming back. So You can look for that guy in season if Brock suffers an injury, or you can look for that guy now. And I think it's far smarter to look for that guy now. Now, who's that going to be? I don't know.
At the risk of setting off a fire in downtown San Francisco, I am going to say his name. He is available. Jimmy Garoppolo.
No.
Look, Jimmy, I know. Look, it feels like an easy no, but Larry, the price point would fit. You'd figure at this point for Jimmy. That
would be the in-season thing. I don't think they would go to that out of season.
I was about to say there's no one who could show up day one with a better working knowledge of the Kyle Shanahan offense than Jimmy. Now, the question is then, would you rather have what's left of Jimmy or give somebody who's never seen the playbook, who's younger and got more potential? But we're talking about a backup quarterback. And you're right. If you're at backup quarterback for about 5 weeks, no matter who your backup quarter is, you're usually in the land of good luck with that. I don't know. Garoppolo in the room again feels like a distraction. It feels like they're building one in. But Jimmy's also a freaking pro. You know, he did not represent distraction. Like, I actually think Jimmy could show up and play the game of backup pretty goddamn well. I don't know. I mean,
don't think. Okay. You've got different allegiances, and guys who are big fans of Jimmy, and I just don't think that they want to bring him back into the room. That would be my guess. I could be wrong. Like, if they went with a rookie, and Brock suffered an injury, they're not going down the tubes. They're going to call anybody and everybody who's out there available. This who's out there available right now, and you tell me who you want to go with out of the veterans. Ryan Tannehill, he's 35. Jimmy Garoppolo, 32. Bridgewater, I believe, is still there. Tyler Huntley out of Baltimore. Brian Hoyer, Josh Dobbs, Easton Stick, Nate Sudfeld. That might be a name. They had him here before.
Go Hoosiers.
Blaine Gabbert. The guy that I'd go with is Carson Wentz.
If Carson Wentz were available, if Carson Wentz would be out there, that sounds
out there.
A pretty good idea to me, because he looked really good when he came in with that Week 18 start with the Rams. Josh Dobbs also, probably more than any other player in the NFL last season, Larry, earned my respect based on the situations he was thrown into, the success of the situations he was thrown into, and like backup quarterbacking talent. Eventually, the bloom came off the rose for Josh Dobbs, but I like him, man. I do like the guy.
Well, I guarantee that you did not watch Bears Vikings late in the year.
Oh, no, I did. And that's when the wheels came off and the bloom came off that rose for Josh Dobbs. But remember, he showed up in Minnesota, was handed a playbook on a Wednesday, and was starting by Sunday, right?
Yeah, he's a what is he, a mechanical engineering major or aeronautical engineering major? Something like that. He can land planes, and he's smart. He's athletic. He checks all the boxes.
Larry, let's say the 49ers
that game right there, though, makes you go, oh my God, no.
49ers are flying to a road game. Pilot passes out, just like an airplane. He got the fish. Do you want Josh Dobbs on your team?
Yes, I do. At that point, I want Dobbs. Give me Dobbs or give me nothing. No, I would, I'd go with Carson Wentz. And I'd get that done soon if I could. Now, Carson Wentz, also, there are games that you could point to and be like, dude, he was terrible. He only played 2 games last year. One of them was against the Niners, and he beat him at Levi's.
And he was good.
And I think Carson Wentz has beaten the Niners like 3 or 4 or 5 times.
He's never lost to the Niners. I do know that.
Yeah, he beat him. He beat him with the Rams. He beat him with the Colts. He beat him at least once or twice with the Eagles. So I would say Carson Wentz is like 4-0 against Shanahan. And Shanahan remembers that stuff. And Wentz in the game against the Niners was he wasn't just good. He wasn't just good. He was really good.
He did a
was
lot with his legs. He basically turned into the primary running back of the Rams.
Right. He ran. So, also, there's a late breaking story. The Niners are working on re signing Chris Conley. The wide receiver is likely to get a 1-year deal. I'm reading that this morning. Mayoko has put that out. Conley's 31, obviously made some big plays for the Niners in the playoffs. I like that signing. I predicted that Demetrius Fowles, Conley, and Feliciano would be the 3 remaining free agents they would re-sign. And if Conley signs, I'm 3 for 3. So I feel good about that. But either way, I think like Joe Milton the third from Tennessee to me is super intriguing, and I would want to draft Joe Milton and develop him. But if you're saying the Niners this year with the team that they have, who's the ideal third quarterback? I think it's Wentz.
That's the thing, though. So congratulations. You've drafted Joel Milton to develop him. And now all of a sudden, like you said, it's a 4-week injury for Purdy, and you're left between Milton, who's never played, and
Brandon Allen.
Who's, also in that never played universe. So that would be a little bit of a gamble for a team that has huge aspirations. Larry, wake up. Welcome, everyone. Are the 49ers a better defensive team today than the team that lost the Super Bowl February 11th in Las Vegas?
That team had Armstead, but no secondary edge rusher. Yeah, I think they are better. I mean, that team also, you're talking about at the beginning of the game, that team had Dre Greenlaw. At the end of the game, that team did not have Dre Greenlaw, and now would probably have to fill in with Jalen Graham or D. Winters. But no, I feel like, there's still some questions. I mean, they still need, you had 6 defensive linemen that were free agents. So, that's why there was going to be all this turnover on the D line. Then they opted to move away from Armstead. So, and they did bring back Kevin Givens. So they brought back one guy out of the group, but Kinlaw's gone. Farrell's gone. Chase Young's probably going to be gone. Randy Gregory's probably going to be gone. So, so they're redoing their defensive line, but I like the guys they got. I mean, as I said, Floyd, I think, is better than what they had, clearly. So they're better there. I like the combination of Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins. I don't think either of them are Armstead, but Armstead wasn't Armstead at the end of the year either. He was playing hurt. He was playing with a thumb, a knee, a foot. I mean, he's barely out there. Yatir Gross-Matos is an interesting story. I loved him at Penn State. He's a monster-sized defensive end, kind of like an Arden Key. The guy's been through some real tragedy. I mean, real tragedy. I mean, he fell off a boat when he was a teenager. His dad jumped into the lake to save him. His dad was obviously successful in saving him. His dad lost his life. His brother then got struck by lightning on a rainy day on a baseball field. I mean, what are the odds of that?
And his mother remarries, and the stepfather, who then comes in after his dad drowned, saving him from drowning, apparently is, just a hell of a guy. And he kept his love of sports alive. And that's why he took the dad's last name, Matos, and hyphenated his own last name to honor the job that his stepfather has done raising him in the absence of his biological father. So it's a hell of a story. It really is. Yeah. I mean, you'll want to root for that guy right away. And again, one team's given up on him, and new faces in new places, it springs good players to life sometimes. And Chris Kasurik is one of the all-time tinkerers with projects and broken toys and getting the best out of guys who have maybe fallen out of favor or, got labeled underachievers. Kasurik brings out the best in these guys. Kasurik makes dudes money. That's how good of a coach he is.
Well, if you have talent and you haven't been able to put it together, get with Chris, right? It worked for Arden Key. It worked for Samson Ebukam. It's worked for 5 or 6 other defensive linemen through the years. This guy's
Charlton Menahue.
Charles Menahue, good call. There's a lot. This guy's got huge talent. I mean, he's 6'5". He's about 265, 270. He's kind of ripped. He is kind of that NASCAR package guy that you could line him up inside and flex him out. You could use him inside in like an all pass rush front, like they've done at times on some obvious passing downs. So yeah, there's a lot to like about Yetur Gross-Matos for sure, as well. And I'm really eager to see what Chris can turn him into.
If you're just joining us here on Wake Up, good morning to you. It's great to have you back here. This is hopefully the first place you go every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As Larry are bringing this to you 3 days a week now, starting at 8:30 a.m. West Coast time. The big news today, I don't know if it's big news or not, but it's news that the 49ers wanted to share with you and Ken now that John Feliciano is back on a one-year deal. George Kittle and Javon Hargrave have both restructured their deals to free up more cap space for the 49ers. So way to go there, fellas. As this 49ers offensive line gets a little massaging now with the Feliciano retention, it's Williams, Banks, Brendel, the hybrid of Feliciano and Burford at right guard, and McKivitz. So you're returning the same offensive line. Just looking at what's happening, reading mock drafts and where the 49ers might be looking, the tackle Guyton out of Oklahoma is a player I think is going to be there at 31 if the Niners just stick and stay and could possibly draft him. Larry, what do you think of this team adding not the interior lineman that we were talking about, but a tackle at 31 and kicking McKivitz inside to center and take a little heat off Brendel?
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Or maybe using McKivitz as off the bench as like kind of your swing guy.
Well, that's Jalen Moore too, right? I mean, he's back.
Yeah. But I mean, how much confidence is there in Jalen Moore? He's been in the system for a while. Yeah, I think everything's possible at this point. I mean, I think Brendel, I don't know what their belief in Brendel is. I mean, I know that Chris Forster likes him. We know that they gave him probably a lot of money, too much money last year. I thought $5 million for Brendel. It seemed a little high. But they may just, the one thing about Shanahan is I think the reason that they haven't gone offensive line early is, one, they haven't had an early enough pick. And the offensive tackles usually go early. And so they always say, hey, we're going to go best available. And it's never an offensive tackle where they're picking from 25 on down. I think that's a big part of it. I think the other side of it is that offensive linemen make mistakes. And when your offensive line makes mistakes, it's a very painful situation. Quarterback often gets killed. The running back gets destroyed. The play gets blown up. Bad things happen. So I think there's a hesitancy to put a rookie out there. But in looking who the Niners have met with, they've met with Talieisi Fuaga and J.C. Latham. Both those guys are projected to go between like 8 and 25. So always listen to what people tell you, but really watch what people do and watch their actions. And the Niners have said all the right things about Ayuk. Oh, we love Ayuk, and we want him here long term, and he's one of us, and this and that. So on the surface, there's no reason to believe they would ever move him. But then you look at Talieisi Fuaga and J.C. Latham and meeting those guys. Well, those guys are going to be long gone unless you trade Ayuk. So what's the plan? I mean, I think the plan is to have a hard number, be a real tough negotiator, and if Ayuk gets beyond that number, move off of him and trade him. There's talk yesterday coming out of Jacksonville that Jacksonville's, front office, which is Trent Baalke, would love to have Brandon Ayuk, and that Brandon Ayuk would love to be in Jacksonville. It's funny, it got played like mutual interest in a trade, but that means the Niners and the Jaguars. This is not the Niners and the Jaguars. This is the Jaguars and Ayuk's camp. But they picked 17th, and if the number gets crazy on Ayuk, maybe you flip him to Jacksonville for a package of a pick or two, maybe including that 17th pick in round 1, and maybe you go offensive tackle at that spot. So who knows?
I might be a little bit more interested if you only had one ACL, Lowry.
But we'll get into all that at the end of the show. We're not starting that yet. Look, the possible Brandon Ayuk contract, and we'll talk about moving around in this first round because a team has already done it. The Minnesota Vikings are getting a little aggressivo, and we'll get into that in a second. But Brandon Ayuk, like this contract that he would be looking for takes a little bit of form and shape based on the Calvin Ridley deal. Calvin Ridley saw Tennessee splash the cash in front of him. 4 years, $92 million for Calvin Ridley. Brandon Ayuk's better than Calvin Ridley. It's a $50 million guarantee. So that's your starting point, Larry. Your starting point for a Brandon Ayuk contract is 4 years, 92, 50 million guaranteed. I think that they could get a 3-year deal in as long as that guarantee, maybe started flirting with 55, 58, 60 guaranteed. I think that's a tough number to walk away from. And remember, all NFL contracts beyond their guaranteed numbers are just window dressing so the agent can victory lap a bigger deal than actually exists in the public space. So nothing but guaranteed money matters. 3 years, 58 million guaranteed. God, that should get Ayuk back, you would think.
It's hard to say because, Jefferson's out there too, and he's going to reset the marketplace. And if he resets it north,
here's the deal.
Million. I mean,
you're better than Calvin Ridley. You ain't better than Justin Jefferson. You're not living in that tax bracket. You should be above Calvin Ridley's tax bracket.
Yeah, but you're an all-pro receiver, and he's going to reset the market in the mid-30s, and then you're going to probably want to get underneath that. Even if you're underneath that, it's still going to be a very painful situation. So I don't know. It's hard to say really what's going to happen with Ayuk, because does he want to win a championship? Does he not? I mean, do you really you want to win a championship, but now you're going to join the Jaguars? Really?
Right. No, that would just be give me the most amount of money possible in a tax-free state and sunshine. Like that's what that move would be for Brandon Ayuk.
The other thing I think has to be viewed here is that the wide receiver market is stacked. I mean, really, really stacked. I mean, I like Brandon Ayuk. Don't get me wrong, but if you can solve your salary cap problem and wind up with a receiver that you want in this draft, that you could get receivers in this draft that could wind up being better than Brandon Ayuk. And people say, "What? Come on, you're crazy." Brian Thomas of LSU is awesome. He's an amazing player. Xavier Legette of South Carolina, 6'3", 230. He runs in the 4.3s. Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky.
If I had $5 for every this wide receiver coming out of college is about to be awesome, you and I would be drinking pina coladas in Aruba right now. Okay, like I don't want to hear a word about how good this rookie wide receiver is going to be, especially in Kyle Shanahan's offense, where not a single rookie wide receiver has done a thing. We're in year
but here's
Kyle
the thing.
Shanahan. Not one of them has contributed.
Here's the deal, though. You got to be flexible. I mean, for example, let's take Green Bay. They had Devontae Adams. And how could you get anybody better than Devontae Adams? Oh, my God. You'll never replace Devontae Adams. They traded Devontae Adams. Here we are a couple years later. They have Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Bo Melton, Dontavion Wicks. I mean, they've replaced Devontae Adams. And then there's other teams like Tennessee. They got rid of A.J. Brown. And then they struggled to replace him. Treylon Burks was not a good replacement. And there's the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill. They got rid of Tyreek Hill. Now they've won 2 Super Bowls without him, but they've struggled and they're looking for a receiver, or they were looking for a receiver until last night when they signed Marquise Hollywood Brown. So, yes, you got to have receivers, but what we're finding, Damon, is that these teams are drawing a line in the sand. And with all the receivers that have come out in the draft, and every year seems like the receiver crop is deeper than the year prior. It's no longer, most of these guys get one major contract, And there's more than a handful of teams that are like, you know what, we'll take our shot with the younger guys. So I know Ayuk's, Purdy's favorite weapon. He loves to throw the ball in the middle of the field. They've got a great rapport. It's not necessarily the smartest move to move Ayuk, but you've already signed Debo. JJ was the star of the Super Bowl. You run the ball a ton, and there's great receivers that you could replace Ayuk with. So I think you've got to find a number that you're comfortable at. And if they vault way, way beyond that, be ready to pivot and be ready to draft a wide receiver. And they've met with Leggett. They've met with Brian Thomas. They've met with some of these receivers, including McCaffrey's brother. And then there may be some interest there. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I hope Ayuk sticks, but it's not like a lock.
So I'll just say that your wide lens of wide receivers being interchangeable and ultimately replaceable is true around the league. I'm not looking at the league-wide lens. I'm focused on the 49ers. Not once has Kyle Shanahan gotten a drop of production out of a rookie receiver. You finally have back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver for the first time since Anquan Bolden, for God's sakes. You got a receiver that is incredibly important to your running game as he is your passing game, and he's your developing into a superstar young quarterback's favorite target. I would stay in the Brandon Ayuk business. The NFL's opinion of him and the wide receiver position should not be Kyle Shanahan's opinion of him and the wide receiver position. Kyle doesn't get shit out of any rookie he's ever coached at that position. Several draft classes, several body types, several different. Are you a possession guy? Are you a burner guy? Kyle can't get shit out of any of his rookie wide receivers. Not never. He's finally got one. So, Debo can change his jersey number to 1. He ain't a 1 wide receiver. He's not. He just isn't. Maybe he will become that. But the only thing that is a number 1 wide receiver about him now is his new jersey number. Brandon Ayuk is this team's number 1 wide receiver, and I hope he remains as such. By the way, Ray McLeod has a 2-year deal with the Falcons, but all of that comes and goes. Larry, we got breaking news.
Breaking news?
It's big breaking news because the 49ers just got better through absolutely no action of their own. As a matter of fact, the whole world that the NFC West lives in just got a little bit easier for every team but the Rams. One of the single greatest players you and I have ever watched in our lives, and that's not hyperbole, that's not being caught up in the moment. Aaron Donald is retiring from the NFL. The big man in the middle is no longer in the middle of the Rams defense. Larry, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the single greatest defensive tackles ever, Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I mean, and it's amazing too that I think he went in the middle of the first round in the 2014 draft. I mean, that's amazing if you think about it. I mean, or the 23rd, or I think he went 13th overall in the 2014 draft or something like that. I mean, this guy was everything. In college, he won every award there was. I don't know that there was a more decorated defensive lineman I've ever seen come into the NFL than Aaron Donald, and nobody loved him because he was 6'1", 280, and you're not heavy enough, you're not tall enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, and all he was the best, most incredible mover at 280 pounds we've ever seen. In a lot of ways, I feel like this is the greatest defensive tackle of all time. I know that's kind of heresy because there was Mean Joe Green, there was Reggie White, there were others, and there have been others, but Aaron Donald is, the hand usage, the strength, the technician, the speed, the power. I mean, the guy, heck, when the money was on the table against the Niners and the Bengals in their run to the Super Bowl, man, he stepped up in all the biggest moments.
Yep.
And he was the reason that they won. So he's a great, great player.
13th overall, 2014, 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All-Pro, Rookie of the Year, a Super Bowl champion. He is on the all 2010s all-decade team. Truly an all-timer. And we over-exaggerate players' positions in all-time thing. Like any heavyweight fight you sit ringside at is the best heavyweight fight you've ever seen. You know what I mean? And we see a great player come around and we try to attach probably more greatness to them just to say we saw it. We did see one of the all-timers. In our lifetimes, we might not see a better defensive tackle than Aaron Donald going forward. Like, that guy comes around once every 25 years.
Yeah, no, he's an incredibly special player. I got wind of this in the last 48 hours that this was going down. You saw Aaron Donald on his own
restructured, didn't they? Like, they just restructured with him, and then he's like, I'm walking.
Wednesday, he put out on his IG the eyeballs thing, and either people were thinking, man, the Rams are about on the verge to add somebody special, or maybe Aaron Donald is at the end. And sure enough, he is at the end, and he's had a great career for sure. This is why the Rams went all in when they did, because they knew they had a special player or two. Look where Stafford is. Look where Cooper Kupp is. Look where Aaron Donald is now. Look where they were, where they've been on the cap the last couple of years. They went all in to win a Super Bowl, and they got it done.
They did.
That's the one thing. The one thing that the Rams have done, the Niners have not been able to do. The Niners have not been able to go all in and win a Super Bowl. They haven't had the peaks and the valleys. And it's like, you kind of ask yourself, as a fan, would you rather have what the Rams have, which is one Super Bowl championship and some dormant years, and probably a couple more dormant years coming, let's be honest? Or would you rather be where the Niners are, where they don't have the Super Bowl, but man, they've been in the NFC Championship game. They've been to multiple Super Bowls. They're much more consistent. They're not giving away years. They're giving you a constant, they're in the mix run. What would you rather have? What's more important, the journey or the destination? Is it more important to have the 6 Lombardi in the trophy case, or to have consistent a consistently competitive outfit, as opposed to the way the Rams did it, where they sold out, they had an amazing roster, they won the Super Bowl, and now they've been kind of almost irrelevant.
It's like a beauty in the eye of the beholder situation. By the way, that irrelevant team was in the playoffs this year. I mean, the Rams, technically, I think, even with Aaron Donald's retirement, would best be described as ascending. I don't think they're the second best team in the NFC West. It's 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals.
I don't know if I would say they're ascending, because you still have your best players on offense being Matthew Stafford. Stafford is 36 years old, and Cooper Kupp seemingly his body is starting to fail him. You did find Puka Nacua this year, and you just rebuilt your offensive line, but Cooper Kupp's on the wrong side of 30. So I don't know. I'm not sure where the Rams are.
They've got a nameless, faceless, yet producing defense, a nameless, faceless defense that becomes even more nameless and faceless with Aaron Donald's retirement. But McVay, McVay's really good, dude.
McVay's really good, but if you're a hardcore football fan, name somebody on the Rams front seven. Go ahead.
You're right. Now you can't anymore. By the way, everyone in the NFC West except the Arizona Cardinals got better after the Cardinals traded Rondale Moore out of the division for a quarterback who might not be a pro quarterback and won't play because he's behind Kyler Murray. Rondale Moore traded to Atlanta for Desmond Ridder. Arizona Cardinals, you're not good at this. I don't know what to tell you. What are you doing? Why would the Arizona Cardinals flip a ascending, productive wide receiver for a all precincts unimpressed backup quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Rondale Moore fan. I really think he's a good player, so I really don't like this move. And I'm not a Desmond Ridder guy. It's amazing how quickly the bloom came off that rose. And I'll say this, I'm not even 100% convinced that Desmond Ridder's better than their other backup quarterback, Clayton Tune. So yeah, the Cardinals, the Cardinals are the Cardinals. So they're they're constant. I mean, they traded last year for Dobbs. They're trading for Desmond Ritter. They're gonna survive or fail based on Kyler Murray. I will say this: I like that the Cardinals. I like some of the moves they've made. I like Jonah Williams stepping in at right tackle. They're moving Paris Johnson to left tackle. They've got the makings there of a decent offensive line. James Conner's not bad. They signed Belial Nichols, Justin Jones up front, Sean Murphy Bunting, a nice cover corner on the back end. But yeah, so the Cardinals are a mess as an organization. They don't, we'll see. We'll see where they go. They don't look like a contender to me.
News of the day. Aaron Donald has retired from the Los Angeles Rams. John Feliciano is back with the Niners on a 1-year deal, made possible through some restructuring by both George Kittle and Javon Hargrave, who sat down to play ball with the front office and make things a little bit easier. We have no news on a developing Brandon Ayuk contract or trade or anything, but we are watching one team get aggressive here in the first round, Larry. Waking up this morning, most people saw that the Vikings have moved up into the first round for a second time. The Vikings get number 23 and number 232 from the Houston Texans, who move back to 42, number 188, and they pick up a 2025 second rounder from Minnesota as well. So now the Vikings have positioned themselves to pursue and get really aggressive for a quarterback. At 11 and 23, they might see someone fall to them there, or they could package both and maybe move up. So Vikings are playing some poker.
Well, good for them. They obviously moved on from Cousins. They have Sam Darnold. They have Nick Mullins. They have Jaron Hall. There was a lot of talk that they may try to trade for Trey Lance. But I could see them. It'd be a very popular move, I would imagine, if they could move up for J.J. McCarthy, right? And then you're looking at Michael Penix. You're looking at Bo Nix. I mean, you could be in a primo spot to draft one of those guys. I'm a huge fan of Michael Penix, and Bo Nix, had a really good individual workout. So maybe they're thinking they'll get their quarterback right there. Makes sense.
So,
I mean, you better get something going at quarterback. You've got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. You've got, and TJ Hawkinson. I mean, and now Aaron Jones. You might have 4 of the best receiving weapons in the game today. You better get a good quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is a decision that's going to shape the next four years of Vikings football, either negatively or positively, if they get it right. That quarterback, I heard it's an important spot, Larry. You can correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, the Chicago Bears have traded for Keenan Allen. Chicago sending a 4th rounder to the Chargers for 31-year-old 6-time Pro Bowl wide receiver and one of the best weapons really in the AFC West. He's coming off a career high 108 catch season, going over the 1,000-yard mark for the 6th time in his career. Keenan Allen is a real player, and the Chicago Bears with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen actually have 2 legitimate wide receivers. What they end up doing with the number 1 overall pick, since they feel, I guess, a little handcuffed now to Justin Fields, is going to be an interesting situation. But the Chicago Bears making a trade for Keenan Allen. So all of a sudden, one of the weapons maybe that Jim Harbaugh was interested in is no longer in LA with the Chargers.
Well, the Chargers have huge cap problems. That's what led to this. And Keenan has had a hard time staying healthy. I mean, look at the games played, look at the games missed. But and I don't know what the heck the Bears are doing at wide receiver. They're trading guys, they're adding guys, they're letting guys go. I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, Allen Robinson was their guy a couple of years ago. They let him go, and he was too expensive. Then they get DJ Moore. They had the kid, was it Mooney? Darnell Mooney?
Darnell Mooney, yeah.
Who had an unbelievable rapport with Justin Fields. What do? They trade him. But then they're not going to trade Fields. It's like, so you kept Fields, but got rid of his one of his favorite weapons. I mean, now you're adding Keenan. You added Gerald Everett at tight end. Are they going with Fields? Are they going with Caleb? Are they going with Drake May? I mean, I was talking about this last night on a live stream. If I was Ryan Poles, I think I don't think I would want to take a risk on any of these top 3 quarterbacks. To me, they're all very speculative. I don't like any of them. As far as just, I'm not convinced. I think that's a very tough evaluation. Now, I'm not saying that Fields is going to be awesome, but what about trading? The New York Giants are desperate for a quarterback. Why not take like Dexter Lawrence, one of their pass rushers, the 6th pick in the draft, and then go draft the Notre Dame left tackle and support Fields that way, and then go, support Fields again at 9. I mean, I don't know. To me, to start fresh with a rookie quarterback and hopefully you get it right. I mean, I'm not convinced that the SC kid, May from North Carolina, or Daniels from LSU, there are all 3 of those guys. I could speak for an hour about why they're tough evaluations. I mean,
Daniels might be the number one. You know who the Bears probably should just take Marvin Harrison Jr., number 1 overall. Like, that kid is awesome.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
There's people that are arguing they should do exactly that.
I'm one of those people. Hi, how are you? My name's Damon. His name is Larry. The name of this show is Wake Up. It's great to have you here. Please click like and subscribe. We're coming to you now 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We get going around 8:30 a.m. whenever Larry's alarm clock allows us to start as close to 8:30 as possible. He's got to get all beautiful for us, and you did show up looking very refreshed today, Larry. No bags under the eye. You look good.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's been a big night of sleep.
Good. I'm glad you got a good night of sleep. What do you think has been the most eye-popping move in NFL free agency? This isn't just a Niner question. This is around the league. What move made you go, all right, that team is officially better, officially scarier? What is maybe the move that you didn't like?
Well, okay. The move that I definitely liked was Baltimore getting Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's number 1 for me too.
I mean, come on, man. You're talking about a big bull of a running back. They love to run the ball. They got Matabuke signed long-term. To me, Eric DeCosta basically builds in the draft. He doesn't do tons of free agency, but Derrick Henry behind that line, you got Lamar at quarterback. You got Derrick Henry, who's your power guy. You got Keaton Mitchell, who the Niners didn't see. Or the Chiefs didn't see because he got hurt in the playoffs before that. But Keaton Mitchell from East Carolina is a super fast back. They got a big physical offensive line. They're a receiver away probably from being really, really scary. So I would say that move was really good. The other move that I really liked is what Green Bay did. Green Bay is coming on in a big way. Green Bay they don't do tons in free agency. They used to not do anything, but this year they added Xavier McKinney at strong safety and Josh Jacobs at running back. I mean, those are two terrific additions by Gutekunst. So I think Green Bay's doing well. As far as worst moves, I'd have to study that a little bit more. Why? What comes to mind with worst moves for you?
Maybe, I don't know if the Eagles got better with Swift out to Chicago now and Saquon Barkley coming in. Saquon Barkley is a play away from I don't know. It just feels like the best of Saquon Barkley is probably in the rearview mirror. I don't know if the Eagles are a better football team with just the retirement of Jason Kelce alone. I mean, I don't know if that offensive line works like it used to. So I don't know about Saquon Barkley being the savior of the Philadelphia Eagles at all.
Okay. The Eagles did do a couple other things as well. They got C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. They added Devin White. To me, Dallas. I mean, Dallas.
They haven't done anything.
Dallas added Eric Kendricks. That's it. I mean, I was really happy when Dallas took Eric Kendricks away from the Niners, just because I really don't believe in free agency that you get a lot better when you bring in guys that are 32, 33, 34, and that's where Kendricks is. So I'm not a big fan of Dallas and what they've done. I thought Dallas needed to do more.
Not exactly the all-in offseason that Jerry Jones had promised Dallas Cowboys fans. Not yet, anyway. What do you think today is going to be about, either for the Niners or the league? What is going to be the headline that jumps on us today? Again, I think both of us have moved out of the 49ers doing a headline-grabbing deal or trade with just about anybody. I mean, maybe there is a Denver Broncos Patrick Surtain deal out there for them, but what exactly that would be, I don't know. Eric Armstead, again, he's caught on with Jacksonville. I think Tennessee adding Calvin Ridley. That's either going to be a big move that helps Will Levis really continue his development, or that's going to kind of fall flat.
I mean, I would say on the Niner front, you're looking for, are they going to get a veteran backup quarterback like a Carson Wentz? Are they going to find another defensive back, either a safety or a corner? And then do they allow their pursuit? There's a lot of talk. They're talking to Green Bay's Devondre Campbell about a free agent addition. I prefer Devin White. White's now in Philly, but I also prefer Devin Bush, who was in Seattle this last year. He's only 25. I like him quite a bit. And, he's cheap. I mean, not cheap. He's young. So to me, I'd be looking for, a linebacker, a DB, or a backup quarterback would be the spots I would be looking. But actually, Devin Bush signed with Cleveland. I think he's off the market. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'd be looking for some form of a linebacker, maybe a DB, maybe a backup quarterback. And then, of course, we're always looking for indications of, any news on Ayuk or Debo, or, because it's hard to envision the 49ers going forward with so much money invested in veteran wide receivers. So what does that mean? There's no advantage to moving Debo before June 1st. So, but then you don't want to move him after June 1st because then you're getting deferred compensation. You know what I mean? So I don't really see him going anywhere. Is somebody going to sign JJ and give JJ a big offer, and the Niners say, hey, we'll take a 3rd-round pick for JJ? They gave him a 2nd-round designation. If not, does the Ayuk market, get hostile and large, and the Niners jump out of it? Those are the major moves. Other than that, it's linebacker. Do they get somebody, one more DB, veteran, either corner or safety, and that 3rd quarterback?
So let's say they stick and stay at 31, and there's a lot of moving parts. You got 30 other moving parts before you even get to 31. It feels like Graham Barton, the offensive lineman, the versatile offensive lineman out of Duke, is moving up draft boards to the middle of the 1st round or the top of the lower 3rd of the draft, which obviously the Niners are at the bottom of. Tyler Guyton, the 6'8", 322, very long offensive tackle from Oklahoma, is a player that I'm starting to say, I think this is the 49ers pick in the 1st round. I read a little scouting report on him that says he might not have that high ceiling that would have made him one of the first tackles off the board, but he's got the floor already built in to play year one and contribute year one. What do you think of Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma being the Niners pick at 31?
I mean, it's possible. It's very possible. I don't love it. He's a run blocker. He's a great run blocker. I don't know if he's nearly as good as a pass protector. I know Trent Williams likes him. He's coming out of the same school that Trent played at. I'm this thing is starting to, we're not really going to know. I mean, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I would say at the tackle spot, you have Joe Alt is number one for sure, right? He's probably going to go in the top 7 or 8 picks.
He's
after
the
Joe
first
Walt,
tackle off the board. He's the first tackle off the board, according to everyone.
then Taliesin Fuaga is going to come off the board. And then it's beauty in the eye of the beholder. Marius Mims is like, 6'8", 350 and has a, skinny waist and ridiculously 86.5-inch reach. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. So Mims somebody could reach for Mims. Somebody could reach for Guyton because of his run blocking ability. If you're a team that really wants to run the ball. I saw a mock last night where JC Latham fell to 31. Well, if JC Latham is there at 31, I'm running that card in because I think he's that good. The Niners just went to Jordan Moses's pro day, the offensive tackle for the University of Arizona, and a lot of people really like him. Graham Barton is interesting because some people think he's just a guard, that he's not really even an NFL tackle.
Can we even say that anymore, Larry? Guards are making $100 million these days. I mean, look at what the Carolina Panthers did to invest in guard play. They're either ahead of the curve or stupid. I mean, the price of every single position in the NFL is just going up. I mean, state of the art at any position is going to start at a $20 million a year conversation these days. You got guards making 15, 16 million a year.
Yeah. But I mean, my thing is the 49ers also worked out, other offensive tackles who are further down the board. They could easily go wide receiver or defensive line. They always go D-line over O-line. Braden Fisk, I think, is a really attractive player. He's promising to be on the board. Rook Aurora, I should say. Yeah, he's exciting, and he'll be there. People are like, yeah, he's in the second round. Yeah, well, just because you're seeing him slotted in the second round doesn't mean jack to me. I think he's tremendous. Xavier Legette, the wide receiver from South Carolina, ran in the 4.3s at 230. He could be their pick. I mean, there's a lot of, you look at that, and then you never know who's going to fall. I mean, I think Michael Penix and Bo Nix, who everybody has in the second round, are going in the first round. So those guys probably are going to push some good players down, and who knows? Maybe it's Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, who's a tremendous number one corner. Maybe it's Liatu Latu from UCLA, the pass rusher, who's had major problems as far as physical problems, health issues. But if those clear up, he might be anywhere from 8 to, the end of the first round. If he's there, he's a true number one pass rusher. So there's just a lot of questions here. There's still a lot of things that aren't answered. Jordan Morgan from Arizona is a real safe pick. JC Latham is the prototype. I mean, he's 6'6", he's 350, he's lean. I mean, to me, Latham and Taliesin Fuaga are the two guys that I think they'd be eyeing. If they fell, they'd want to trade up and get them. If they fell into their lap, they would draft them. Other than that, I think there's a very good chance, that they surprise us at the end of 31. And I would not be surprised at all if the board falls a certain way, if the 49ers get to 31 on Thursday night, the 25th of April, and trade out of the first round into the second round. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Move back a little. It is a deep draft. It's funny. I've read differing, takes on what this draft is going to look like, and that this is an incredibly talent-rich draft, and you're lucky to be having a lot of picks in this draft, and there's going to be a lot of day 2, day 3 picks that are real NFL players. I've also seen it written up that because of name, image, and likeness, a lot of guys that would have had NFL value in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds are staying in college, and this draft isn't nearly as deep as everyone assumes. It just looks good based on who's actually out there, but who's returning to college are probably a bunch of guys who could have started their pro careers this year, but have gone back for name, image, and likeness money. What do you think of that?
Well, that's the new world right now, right? Is these guys can make money in college. So, I mean, if you have an opportunity to go back to college and and get your degree and make money. I mean, I love it for the athlete. I don't know if I love it for these NFL teams. By the way, as we're sitting here, Ian Rappaport is reporting that the 49ers are signing former Packers star linebacker Devondre Campbell. Campbell gets a 1-year deal. This is an interesting player too, Damon. Campbell played at Minnesota. He's a bigger player than the Niners typically have at linebacker, 6'4", 230. When he came out of college, he ran in the 4.5s. And I don't think he runs that well anymore, but he was also all academic Big Ten at the University of Minnesota. Great athlete, very smart. So if you're looking for that stopgap linebacker to pair with Fred Warner, it's going to be Devondre Campbell. So
the 49ers have added a Gopher, a Nittany Lion, a Cornhusker, a lot of Big Ten showing up on the team.
Well, and also interesting that they're adding pieces that give them coverage in the draft, but don't necessarily preclude them from drafting. You know what I mean? Like they just took Devondre Campbell, but if the right linebacker is on the board, I could see him going linebacker in the draft. They went Yatir Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd, but if there's a really good edge rusher they want, they could go edge rusher. They went with 2 interior tackles, but if they could go interior tackle again. I look at it that way. Other people may look at it like they're checking a bunch of boxes and now it's a lock that they're going offensive tackle at 31, but we'll see.
Big news today is Aaron Donald has announced his retirement from the Rams and the NFL. Bon voyage to a guy who is one of the single greatest to ever play the game up front. And there's just no doubt about that. Eric Armstead, he gets a call from Trent Baalke. Should we start? Are we wrapping things up here, Larry? Is there anything else you got to get out, or should we
talk about how, look, Eric, here's what we got for you. We got sunshine. We might not have a playoff team, or I thought we did, but maybe we don't. I don't know. Trevor Lawrence doesn't have any wide receivers anymore, but we're putting something together very special down here in Jacksonville. Eric, why don't you come in and be a part of it?
It might be a tad premature, Damon and Lowry, to get into this Trent Baalke portion of the extravaganza. We got over 2,000 people hanging, but we also haven't read any of the super chats.
Oh my God! Well, you never wanted to disrespect the supers. You put them in the trunk of the Miata and you take them with you. They're your most loyal listeners, Larry. And shame on Damon for not thinking about the listener first. He's a selfish broadcaster. This is why Tony Salvador said maybe 1050 is best for you. This is why Lee Hammer said no. This is why maybe this is why you're not on the radio anymore, Damon, because you didn't respect the audience the way you were supposed to. Let's get to these super chats.
There's a reason I'm on 680 and you're on 1050, Damon. There's a reason for everything. I just want to say I never leave money on the table. You've left money on the table. I don't know what you're thinking. Tate doesn't agree. I don't agree. Let's go to Amici's.
All right, here we go. Hutch Serves Gaming says 19 months of being a member. Let's go.
There you go. I mean, God, Larry, you got members longer than I've even been alive on YouTube. So congratulations, Hutch. Way to go. You're back in a good one.
He's not just Hutch Serves Gaming. He is the mayor of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and he's throwing out 50 spot here. Congrats on 40,000 subs. Life has been busy, so have not been able to catch the streams lately.
Sprinkle it.
Keep that fire. You're lazy, Larry.
Sprinkle it.
Thank you, Hutch. We appreciate you, brother. Yes, we're over 40,000 subs. James Foster. I wonder how the conversation sounded between Baalke and Armstead. What is Baalke saying to Ayuk's camp right now? Krug, you probably know how it sounded.
We've already done.
You know what he said? He said, "Hey, Eric, I was staring at Marcus Peters, but I had written your name in an envelope, and I'm the guy who drafted you in San Francisco. And I want to be the guy who brings you to Jacksonville. Come down here, play for coach, play next to Josh Allen, play for a general manager who knows what you're damn well worth instead of that John Lynch character. Come on down here to Jacksonville, Eric. We'll make it happen. Right now, it looks like you could have the games that we could play with you and Trayvon Walker are absolutely unbelievable. Come to Jacksonville, my friend.
Duval.
Here we go. Gabriel C. Debo to Cincinnati for Higgins in the 3rd pick. They don't have the 3rd pick.
What is he talking about? A 3rd rounder?
Yeah, no. Try Higgins in their 1. You're talking about the All-Pro receiver right now. In Ayuk. Ayuk is pretty damn good. He's pretty damn good. That's
Well,
why
he's talking about Debo.
Oh, Debo to Cincinnati. Man, if you're Cincinnati, why would you do that?
Yeah, I don't know. You're not doing that if you're Cincinnati. By the way, why do you think Debo? I like the fact that he's a dad now. He popped the senior on his nameplate. Why'd he change his number?
I don't know, but I mean, I'm not a jersey wearing person, but what if you're walking around with the Debo 19? You're kind of just screwed.
Can you like use a seam ripper and just pull the 9 off there, and then it just looks 1, but it's a little cockeyed?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an act of betrayal. No, I have no idea. I'll say this: I do like guys who want to wear number 1 because it's like, hey, man, give me all that shine. Now you got to back it up.
I never liked number 1 on a football player. It's just their bodies are too big. It makes players look fat, I think. So I don't know. I thought Debo, I mean, his damn Twitter handle is 19 problems. He has 19 like on the back of his back tattoo is basically the entire number 19 all over his back. Why would you have your jersey number tattooed on you and then change your jersey number? The joke is also like, hey, congratulations, Debo. You're finally a number 1 wide receiver. But yeah, to me, any 49er fan should be able to take their Debo number 19 jersey and turn it in for a new number 1 jersey. Like there should be a straight up 1-for-1 you get taken care of there instead of having to double dip to support this guy and get his new jersey. I don't believe in change, Larry. I hate change. I fear change.
Go. Jeff Caravella, is there really a Debo Higgins trade on the table? This is the second one. Higgins and Ayuk together would be dope. CMC does Debo shit anyway. Is this just a fantasy? LOL. Well, where Gabriel and Jeff, fill us in. I mean, do you have a source on any of this? Or is this was this Gabriel's brainchild and Jeff reacting to it?
Maybe. I haven't seen the Cincinnati Bengals and 49ers in the same sentence this entire free agency or offseason or last season. So
yeah,
I don't know where that's coming from.
I don't either. Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals ain't doing nothing, according to James Foster.
I would agree.
And then in an emoji that looks, I'm not really sure what that is. Herbie Holland, Aaron Donald, one of the greatest defensive tackles ever. Much respect from this 49er fan, first ballot Hall of Famer. Good luck to him. No doubt.
You could even waive the waiting period if you just want to put him in there.
He's incredible. Herbie Holland. Oh, my God. I agree with Larry. I think Caleb Williams is overrated. Like all these draft day quarterbacks, I wouldn't draft Caleb at number 1. I definitely agree with Larry. I'm just a little nervous about all of the top guys. Like I did a deep dive the other day on all 3 of these guys. Caleb's got several things. First of all, SC quarterbacks are notoriously hard to evaluate. Everybody thought Matt Leinart was going to be great. He wasn't. People thought Matt Barkley was going to be damn good. I mean, there's lots of SCs surrounded by so much talent. It's hard to evaluate the quarterbacks. Then Drake May.
Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez. There's been a lot. Rob Johnson and others. I mean, Carson Palmer was going to be, the greatest that ever walked.
He was good. Carson Palmer was good.
He was good, but he wasn't the greatest that ever walked. So I don't know. SC makes me nervous. And then Drake May, I mean, North Carolina, Trubisky looked good at North Carolina. And North Carolina probably has the highest number of guys who look great in college who busted in the pros. So that always makes me nervous. There's something odd about his game that I can't put my finger on. And then to me, I decided that I kind of like Jaden Daniels the most of the 3 guys. But then the LSU kid has two of the greatest college receivers I've seen. And I know that didn't mean anything for Joe Burrow, who also had amazing, he had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and yet Joe Burrow's special. But I can't decide. I mean, Jaden Daniels is really skinny. He's got a great arsenal of throws, though. I mean, and he throws with touch and tempo, and there's so much to like him. He's very refined as a thrower, but I just don't know. I mean, how much of it is it? How much of it is him? How much of it is Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas? I don't know. So I'm very nervous at the top of the draft, especially when you could take Joe Alt and Marvin Harrison Jr., and those guys just look so safe by comparison.
To me, a guy like Michael Penix, who had NFL talent, certainly at wide receiver up in Washington, is a guy who did so much at Indiana with nothing around him that I'm telling you, I would rather have Penix at 15 than Caleb Williams at 1. I think there's less risk. I mean, the number 1 overall pick is something you just do not want to blow. If I'm the Bears, I'm getting out of it. I don't know how much of damaged their relationship or faith and trust that Justin Fields would have in them. By the way, if I were Caleb Williams, I would watch the Bears bungle this Justin Fields market, and that would just be another red flag. If you're a quarterback, you do not want to end up in Chicago. Historically, in present time, in any time, you don't want to be a Bears quarterback. No team in football has a bigger blind spot at any position than the Chicago Bears have at quarterback. So
what about J.J. McCarthy, too? I mean, J.J. McCarthy never loses. He's a hell of a kid. I mean, what if J.J. McCarthy becomes awesome? So this guy, it is what it is. Is pump and dump Purdy and draft Penix. Come on.
Everyone who is looking at these quarterbacks, and an awful lot of the analysis that I've seen on McCarthy is that there's no one in this draft class is better than him pre-snap. And coming from a Harbaugh offense, he's actually running and calling NFL plays like an NFL quarterback. He's not looking over to the sideline for a picture of a frog, a picture of Elsa from frickin' Frozen, and a picture of a donkey, and that's your play. You guys going with Frozen, frog, or donkey? What play are we running? We're running donkey. It's not some candy-ass college offense that J.J. McCarthy has been in, and apparently to sit down with him and talk football with him is to really be impressed by him. So J.J. McCarthy could be off the board before a guy like Michael Penix or Drake May. He might be J.J. McCarthy might be the surprise of the first round.
Oh, no doubt. And in my mind, Penix is really special, but Penix has had a lot of injuries.
Yep.
Penix is older. He's 24. He's not 19. Older prospects who have had injuries, you got to investigate the medicals. And then, even Dave Softy Mahler, he does the pregame for UW Huskies, is like, dude, Penix played behind a great O-line. And it's like, it's really hard to evaluate exactly what he is because that O-line was so damn good. He was never under pressure. He was never in a muddy pocket. He didn't look good in the national championship game. He definitely, was throwing off his back foot but he's got ridiculous arm strength. And he was the best thrower of any of the quarterbacks in Indy. And he had the best year of any of the quarterbacks in college.
Well, so and if you want to judge him on the sliding scale of how'd you do with less talent around you, go back and watch his film in Bloomington. That's decidedly less talent. And that's the best year of football Indiana's had. And now maybe it was the pandemic and it was just a weird year all the way around and all that stuff. But that's the best year of Indiana football in my lifetime almost, the year with Michael Penix. So the kid's a player, man. If he can stay healthy, there's a player there. He's a smart kid. He's a hard worker. Another guy who I think is going to be a real, beauty in the eye of the beholder is who's coming after Bo Nix. Somebody could fall in love with him and take him earlier than a lot of people are projecting.
I mean, he had 40 touchdowns and 3 picks this year. I mean, the guy had an amazing year. And then people decided they didn't like his workout and, this and that. And he didn't look good at the Senior Bowl. And, so who knows? But yeah, but Bo Nix is, I think, Bo Nix did it at Auburn and he did it at Oregon. It wasn't like, oh, he's just, he just ran one offense. Bo Nix had success running multiple different style offenses in different conferences. So to me, that's a feather in his cap.
Let's clear the comments, and then I got one last thing to put in front of you before we wrap it up.
Daza says if we can somehow trade for a really good cornerback and trade up and draft a stud offensive line player, this will be a good offseason for the Niners. Okay, I kind of agree with that. But man, what's it going to cost? What would it cost to get Patrick Surtain? Because I'm not really willing to go a 1, a 2, and a 3 for Surtain. They just have other needs. But I mean, I like Surtain. I like that number 1 corner. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I want to trade 3 premier picks for it.
3 picks for is that what they're saying? The price tag is?
Yeah, the price tag can be a 1, a 2, and a 3.
No dice.
It's a lot.
No dice. Is that it?
That's it. Those are the nine supers there.
So I put out a video yesterday, and I'm sure I'm the only person who is trying to do a he's better than you think he is video about Spencer Burford. I actually think that an awful lot of the 49ers headaches can be solved with just a monster offseason for Spencer Burford. This guy is 23 years old, Larry. There's going to be guys, he's younger than a lot of guys who are about to be drafted in April. He's only 23 years old. He's already made 30 starts. Remember, it's tough getting on the field early as an offensive lineman. Aaron Banks was undressable in his first year, and look at how good he's become. Burford has been, getting on-the-job training, which sometimes has, left some play to be desired. But I think he's good. He's young. You got Trent Williams singing his praises. Again, 30 starts on a 23-year-old. If Spencer Burford were back in this draft, I bet you he's one of the top offensive linemen coming off the board. I really think that a huge year 3 offseason for Spencer Burford is just as important as any correct draft decision for the 49ers. Now, Feliciano coming back takes a little pressure on him or puts more pressure on him to improve. I don't know how that works and what their relationship really is, but I just think that Burford could have a huge offseason and pay big dividends in year 3 where he'll turn 24. You don't give up on a 23-year-old with 30 NFL starts under his belt.
Well, I don't think you give up on him, but he's also a 4th-round pick. He played tackle, and is he a tackle? Is he a guard? There's more development that's needed there. I thought he regressed from year 1 to year 2. I'll say this: he's everything you want as far as he's smart. He's got the prototypical body for a guard. It's just a matter of the adjustment, and I think he'll get better. I like him a lot. I think he's a smart, he's a smart guy with almost the perfect offensive line build. Really carries a lot of weight in his legs. He can really anchor. He's a nice player. He's a nice player. So I do like him. By the way, as we're sitting here, the 49ers have signed Chase Lucas away from the Lions. I actually kind of like Chase Lucas. Chase Lucas is a corner who played at Arizona State. He's 5'11", 180-pound corner. He's from Chandler, Arizona.
He's more of a special teamer, though, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, he this was a really good college player. He ran 4.48 with a 1.52 10-yard split. He was a 4-star high school recruit. And and then when he played at Arizona State, he's a boundary corner, and he's a guy who was like a leader for them. I think he was the team captain. He was the leader of the secondary. Kind of an under the radar pickup there with Chase Lucas. I mean, I'm eager to see what he does. with the 49ers. But, when you can get a guy who's got some good measurables and he's, a leader and was productive. He was a 7th round pick in the 2022 draft. He's only 27. So we'll see. We'll see what he looks like this summer. But I like some of the things I've read about Chase Lucas.
So the
I
Niners
have to study him.
The Niners have made another move today. By the way, speaking of Detroit, you see who got extended?
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Dan Campbell, not going anywhere. That's what happens when you get down an NFC title game out of nowhere for the first time since TV was invented, basically.
Does he have a timeout clause in his contract?
I really don't know.
Come on, Dees. Dees nuts.
Anyways, congratulations to Dan Campbell and all fighting Campbells out there. So 49ers doing another move today, coming in on a Friday and getting a couple things done, a few restructured contracts in Hargrave and Kittle. Chase, would you say Chase Lucas?
Chase Lucas. That was pretty
added.
impressive, actually, Damon. You asked me literally no more than 15 minutes ago what's left to be done. I said backup quarterback, linebacker, and a defensive back. And literally in this show, the Niners added a linebacker and a defensive back. So now it's just a matter of
lapping your knowledge.
Well, I'm just saying, get ready for Carson Wentz this afternoon if they go 3 for 3.
There you go. Larry, the prognosticator, doing some prognostication. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, notifying to both of these channels. Wake Up is officially here, boys and girls, and it's going to be a problem in this market. I can promise you that. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday's show went 5 hours. Wednesday's show actually got postponed. You joined me in my 11 o'clock show, which I've got coming up in about an hour here. And Larry, you and I are back at it here on a Friday. We invite everyone back Monday, and we will know what happens over the weekend. But the 49ers are not resting easy. They're not sitting back here. They're still active, and I'm sure will be right up until the draft, baby. Here we go. Here we go. This was an awful lot of fun today, Larry. We've done our Balky and Ralph impressions already. I don't think we got that much left.
No Warriors, no Giants, no.
I think we're good, right? I mean, I think we're good there. I really don't want to talk about the Giants. I know the audience doesn't want us talking about the Giants, and the only thing you need to know about the Warriors is Steph Curry will hopefully be back Saturday for the Lakers game, and it's time to start winning basketball games, or you're in a possible one-and-done 9-10 seed situation. Anthony Slater wrote a pretty good article in The Athletic about how the Warriors are painting themselves into the wrong corner in terms of those play-in seeds.
Man, I tuned in yesterday a little bit to Grandy and Dibbs driving around. Those guys get so deep on Warriors that it makes me uncomfortable. I mean, it literally makes me uncomfortable listening to it. I was listening to, they're literally going, and then, they had the shot off the elbow, and then the next trip down, they had it's like, whoa, we're breaking down sequence after sequence after sequence on an NBA team that is 34-31, dangling in the 10th seed in the play-in tournament. I mean, that's
look.
I mean, you can sit there and say, man, Krug gets deep on Brock Purdy. Krug gets deep on the Niners. Nobody gets as deep and all up in the Warriors as the game.
Well,
the
I
game
can tell you
is
this. I can tell
absolutely. They're just all over the Warriors. I mean, it's just the Niners going on, making picks, free agency, baseball season about to start. You tune in and you're getting, Warriors with a side of Warriors.
I've known Dan for 20 years. I like Dan very much. We're friends. Mark Grandy is an ascending broadcaster, but when I left 95.7 The Game, he was my board op. And I'm all about young guys getting reps and opportunity.
And they're both good. It's
They're
not
both
about
good.
being good.
Yeah.
I just mean that the topic matter there is it's like it's not just Warriors. It's Warriors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7.
If you
And
don't
maybe
mind, if you don't mind me saying, I thought that 95.7 The Game used to have a better show and afternoon drive. I'm just going to put that out there. With all due respect to everyone remaining, I'm just going to put that out there. You used to have a host in an A chair who knew how to steer through important topics that really mattered, reluctantly dragging my friend the Walrus behind me, who didn't even want to talk sports anymore. But that was a damn good show. Just couldn't afford it. It was so good they couldn't even afford it anymore, Larry. Sons of bitches.
don't carry bitterness, but
I'm
very good. Matt Nahagian's very good. The station's very good, but they do talk a shit ton of Warriors.
Used to be better. Very good. Used to be better. All
but
right.
I mean, it might be time to pivot. I mean, it's the Warrior. I mean,
they will
tense.
ride that horse down to its knees. I mean, they will just talk about beating a dead horse. They're over there shooting a dead horse.
Oh my goodness. All right, man. Got a big Friday. Chase Sr. is going to be in the house in 35 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit more Niners with Chase for our 45 minutes of power. And then my sister's in town from Connecticut, so I'm going to go to lunch with her.
Hey, have a wonderful lunch with your sister. Might I recommend you have a couple of Ike sandwiches delivered to you, if not going to Pig in a Pickle. Thanks again to our sponsors. Thanks again to our audience. I feel like I've said enough, but there will be more to say at 11 o'clock over on right here on the Damon Bruce channel. If you're watching Damon Bruce Plus, we'll see you there. Larry, thank you very much. Good first week I think good first week for the 49ers. Nothing too dramatic, but an awful lot of smart, prudent, patient decisions that I do think have the 49ers. I'm not going to say a better team than they were. They're deeper than maybe they were the night they played the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I told Tom, I told Tate, I said, you know what, this is a deeper team. And, Craig, if I could give you one suggestion, I would say maybe a Michis. Try to get into Michis.
And I'm like, Ralph, come on. You're always pimping a Michis. We're not going to Michis today.
Now we go Michis and get it a little extra bird, maybe some of those atomic wings. The wings are really good. Go check them out. Go say hi to Peter. If I was there, I'd go with you. Anyway, good stuff, guys. Have a great Friday. Peace.